find yourself spending way more time in bed, just lying there, not really doing much these days? Do you feel like you're tired all the time and just can't muster the energy for anything?
It's easy to just chalk that up to being lazy, right? But here's the thing. There's a pretty big overlap between what we call laziness and something called burnout, and it can be tough to tell them apart. Burnout isn't just feeling a bit tired, it's a really draining state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion.
And it usually creeps in when you're dealing with way too much stress for too long and just can't cope anymore. It's surprisingly common, too. A 2010 survey found that around 75% of adults in the US alone had experienced symptoms of burnout.
And for over 40% of them, it was pretty severe. So now, more than ever, it's super important to get clued up on what burnout actually is. With that in mind, let's explore 6 clear signs that what you might be going through isn't just a case of laziness, but actual burnout.
Okay, so what's the first sign?
First, you might feel disconnected from pretty much everything, like you're just kind of drifting through your days on autopilot with this nagging feeling of being detached, even from yourself. If burnout is hitting you, you might be dealing with depersonalization.
Depersonalization? What's that like?
People going through it often describe a weird kind of emotional numbness or emptiness, almost like they're watching their life happen from outside their own body. They don't feel like themselves anymore. Nothing seems to grab their interest, and they're constantly battling this overwhelming sense of helplessness, feeling like they've lost control.
That sounds tough. What's the second sign?
Second, think back. You used to be motivated, right? Laziness is often seen as a personality trait, and those tend to be pretty stable. Someone who is generally lazy doesn't usually feel like putting in much effort, consistently.
But if you were once a self-starter, someone who achieved things and maybe even excelled, and only recently you've become totally exhausted, apathetic, and unmotivated, then it's far more likely you're dealing with burnout, not just being lazy. Makes sense. What about the third sign?
Third, you used to be passionate about things. This is a really clear difference. Someone who's burnt out used to have hobbies, interests, or goals they were genuinely excited about. Now, though, they might find it incredibly hard to find any joy or interest in those same things anymore.
So things like a talent, a sport, or even your performance at school or work?
Exactly. Burnout can make it a struggle to do the things you once loved. You might even start to really dislike or resent them because you pushed yourself so hard and overworked yourself to the brink because of them.
That's a tough one. Wow. Okay, what's sign number 4?
Fourth, you've become moody and irritable. Do you find yourself snapping at people more easily or getting irritated by the smallest things? Do you feel like your emotions are all over the place these days and you're not sure why?
Moodiness and irritability are common signs of burnout then.
Precisely. So if you're suddenly having trouble managing your emotions, especially if that was never an issue for you before, burnout could be the reason. People who are simply lazy, on the other hand, are usually quite the opposite, often very relaxed, laid back, and not easily ruffled.
That's a clear distinction. What's the 5th sign?
Fifth, you've started neglecting your self-care. This is one of the more distressing red flags for emotional and physical burnout. Maybe you've started to withdraw from friends and family, or your eating and sleeping habits have gone haywire.
Or perhaps you've stopped making an effort with your appearance, or you find yourself spending most of your time alone, doing nothing, simply because even the smallest tasks feel completely exhausting.
Yes, and the really stark difference between this and laziness is that you weren't always like this.
Right. And the 6th sign, you mentioned these changes are gradual.
Exactly. And sixth, this is a crucial point about burnout. It develops in stages. All those things we've talked about, losing interest and motivation, feeling detached, pulling away socially, and letting self-care slide, they don't just suddenly appear.
So it creeps up on you?
It does. Studies actually show there are 5 main stages to burnout, each one more severe than the last. The honeymoon phase, the onset of stress, chronic stress, actual burnout, and then habitual burnout. Many people start feeling symptoms as early as that second stage.
So even when stress levels are still somewhat moderate, your optimism, interest, motivation, and performance might already be starting to dip.
That's right. And by the time you hit that fifth and final stage, burnout is so deeply embedded in your life that the constant mental and physical fatigue becomes even more intense and much harder to treat. This also makes you more vulnerable to developing issues like depression and anxiety.
So spotting the signs of burnout early on is key.
Absolutely. It makes it so much easier to get the help you need and start recovering.